I do believe that, again, I do believe like you manifest, your part of your reality. And I think if you approach a conversation, again, this is what I said in that post, but like if you approach a conversation with a customer that this is going to be bad, this isn't going to go well, they're mad, like you're going to get that outcome. If you can approach it of like, they're a human being that needs help, this is going to go awesome. There's just something in your posture that changes. There's something in your words, your vibe. Like I think that is real.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Your Customer, Your Success. My guest today is Alison Dixon. Alison is the Chief Customer Officer at the cybersecurity company, Portnox. Alison is at the forefront of shaping how technical, high-stakes industries like cybersecurity can deliver world-class customer experiences. At Portnox, she's built the CX function from the ground up, expanding CX beyond support, and building programs that reduce churn and drive long-term value. Alison, welcome to the show.
Hi, Gary. Great to be here.
Yeah, hey, great to see you. Hey, today I think I want to get right to it. It's going to be a little bit of a different conversation talking about CX and cybersecurity. So let's start with, what does customer experience mean in a cybersecurity context, and how is it different from CX and other industries?
Yeah, I think it's similar and it's different, right? Like it's similar in the way that I think the goal of customer experience, keep customers happy, reduce churn. So in that way, it's the same. But I would say how it's different is it just, to me, it feels like the stakes are higher. Like when I think about some of the tools and systems that I use in my work life or just life, like they're important, but they're not critical. And I think that you sort of have to have that lens when you're thinking about how you fit into the customer's life. So when you think about their cybersecurity posture, it's incredibly important. So that I think makes it a lot different than maybe some of the other tools that, while important, aren't necessarily critical.
So it's you built the customer experience organization from scratch, right?
Yes. Yep.
So can you walk us through that? Like, what was the first 30 days like? Maybe 30, 30, 30, or however you thought about it, or maybe you didn't. You just had to wing it.
Yeah. So we're a hyper growth Series B. We were, I've been at Portnox since 2022. We had a lot of customers, but more kind of in the mid-market SMB, and we really moved into the enterprise, and with that comes different customer expectations and that kind of thing. So while we had onboarding and support, we got to the point where, we need more of a relationship with our customers. And so when this all started and how I thought about it was really, what do I want as a customer? And I
Right.
think it goes back to, I don't think customer experience, I think a lot of it is common sense. So it's talking to your customers, it's connecting with your customers, it's understanding what's important to them, how you fit in, and then building out a lot of the programs and infrastructure to support them and ultimately what they want from your business.
And so, was there a plan, or did it just kind of evolve?
I would say it evolved. I mean, I think it was really aligning the team around new goals, new metrics, thinking about our customer base differently than we had before, and really thinking about those long-term relationships and how we drive long-term value and how our customers should be, informing what we're doing, how we're approaching our roadmap. And so it's hard to sort of, it's been a little bit of a whirlwind, I would say.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But I think that, it really was taking the company beyond those interactions of we deploy the customer and we support the customer to we are the customer's partner, as they're developing their cybersecurity posture and as we're growing as a business.
And so you mentioned metrics. I tend to get to that towards the middle, towards the end, but you brought it up, so let's roll with metrics. How did you decide what metrics to pay attention to? What do you pay attention to? What do you not pay attention to? Right? Because there's always great debates out there. in the LinkedIn sphere, as I call it.
Yep.
But tell me what your thoughts are on that, what you're using, and what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, and I mean, we had a lot of conversations, especially as we were building out our health scoring. I think for me, what matters and how you can think about the health of your business or your business and as well as your customer experience or customer success function. For us, you know, customers don't renew and they don't grow if they are not happy with you and your product. So for us, deployment, our product is easy, but deploying it can sometimes be a challenge just because we touch a lot of a customer's infrastructure, so their hardware and things like that. So getting our team rallied around time to value. So that's a big one for us. How long is it taking for the customer to see the value to get their network protected? You know, gross dollar retention, net dollar retention, multi-year contracts. Those are all things that signal, for us as a business, the things that we really rally around. You know, I definitely focus on the multi-year commitment. To me, that says everything. But I think that things that I don't real focus on as much, I I think that there's a lot of consternation or thinking around support tickets, and I don't track like we track that, and we're making sure customers are getting the support that they need, and if it's a lingering issue, of course, but
Hmm.
I actually think sometimes, like a lot of times, if you're engaging with support, you are engaging with our product. And as long as that support experience is a good one, I don't worry about it. And I know we have a great support experience and we have systems and tools in place to make sure that it's a great experience. But that's one that I don't look at as much as I look at other things and other signals that, again, if a customer is doing a multi-year renewal, they're having a good experience with your company.
Right. And so, and this is the interesting thing I think about your world, and we talked about this at our first discussion. I think the interesting thing is, well, how do you really get that value and that time to value? Because cybersecurity customers might not feel that value until something goes wrong, right? It's kind of like being an umpire in baseball. No one knows you're there until like you blow a call. So,
Yeah.
and then you're
No,
all
it's
over the
totally
right,
true.
right. I mean, is that kind of the
Yeah.
atmosphere, right?
We think about that a lot, and especially because our product is it's not like when I start my day, I am logging into my CRM, I am looking at I'm interacting with that daily. And customers may, once we're set up, it is a little bit of a set it and forget it product. Like it is protecting their network silently. That's part of the benefit of Portnox in that you're not having to do stuff to it all the time. We patch it, we maintain it, we do everything for you, which is different than our competitors, but it also can be a little bit out of sight, out of mind. So I think about the risk a lot of IT people moving around. Your champion leaves, somebody else comes in, they're like, what the heck is this thing? I don't even see it. So maintaining thinking about how we show the why is really important. And one of the things that we've started doing is just proactively scheduling account health check-ins, making sure that those are valuable to a customer. I'm not into the quarterly business reviews. It's not a thing that we're doing, but making sure our customers understand how do you optimize based on all of the new integrations. Now we integrate with SentinelOne, we integrate with CrowdStrike. Like, have you taken advantage of that, making sure you're getting the most value for your spend on Portnox? So that's one way. And I often think about when you see a breach that Portnox could have prevented, sending that along and being like, aren't you glad you have you have
Yeah.
Portnox? So we kind of have thought of it, but for us it's really like our CX, we go with customer experience first. I use customer experience and customer success interchangeably, but our CSMs are really connected to their customers, and we're doing a lot of proactive outreach and check-ins. And you kind of have to walk that fine balance of not being annoying and sort of understanding, like, even though we think we're really important, customers sometimes do want us to be silent. So it's finding that balance, I would say. But really making sure customers are understanding the value we're providing at regular intervals has been really important.
Yeah, I can imagine, right? Because I think that's your challenge. It's, how often do you go out to them, hey, everything's fine, everything's still fine. Look, we're protecting you and everything's great. Which, okay, fine, that's great, but they might not want to hear that very often. They're just
Right.
glad it works, and or they're on to doing whatever they have to do. So that is a challenge, and it's interesting to hear you say you are not doing the QBRs, because that is another area of debate sometimes. But it's not adding value. It's not, don't do it. Right? It's
Right.
depends on what you do. My world's investments and investment servicing. So a quarterly review, you could be reviewing investment performance, the markets,
Sure.
market outlooks, things like that. It's totally different. And I'm also glad you mentioned CX. You use CX and customer success interchangeably a bit. That's interesting, because I kind
I
of
do.
do the same thing, which might ruffle a few feathers of some true CX consultants out there, and maybe some customer success people. But that's what I think I do. I think I blend the two, and that's
Yeah.
that's what I do on the show, actually. So, all right. So let's get to some results. Let's talk about some fun stuff. Is there an aha moment you've seen customers have when they realize the true value of what your company actually does, right? Because it is hard. So sometimes I'd assume the light goes on and they go, oh, yeah, wow.
Yeah, it's a great question because I do sometimes think that there's such a, you know what I used to do sales enablement and you know what the value proposition is really well and you believe it and you know your product's great. And then sometimes you are in the post sales world and it does seem like you're just interacting with problems. It can
Yeah.
be while I think our support is phenomenal, there's sometimes our support gets hit with something like it's actually another vendor and sending a customer to another vendor never feels great. So you're just interacting with some more stickier situations or, a delayed deployment, things like that. And by and large, I think we can forget to look at the stuff that's going really well. And I try to, our customers that are health score of 10, I'm very cognizant of like, don't just assume they're fine, but also go get the great stories from them. We shouldn't just focus on the ones that maybe are delayed or, they're not seeing the value yet. So just recently we did our marketing team did a case study with one of our customers and I listened to the interview because it was in our, recorded calls. And this customer was just delighted by us. They deployed in about a month. They had a they had been with a competitor of ours before, had a miserable time, and just the way he spoke about the ease and the value he was seeing and just how much easier we made his life when you
Hmm.
can really interact with wow, what we're saying we're going to do in sales, we do and we deliver that. So I think that was really an aha moment of like, we made this guy's life so much easier. Like we
Yeah.
say all the time, we're the ones doing the upgrades for you. You're not doing it on the weekend. We're super easy to deploy. And then hearing that coming from a customer and their delight has just been a really cool experience to see. So for me, that's kind of been the biggest aha.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That is great to hear, and it is all about making their life easier for your clients. So, you mentioned the health scores. I had that as another question, so I'm going to get to
Mhm.
that. You obviously you do use them. How do you use them? I heard you use a 10, use a scale of 10.
Yep.
And what makes them useful? Because that's another debate I hear out there. Even and I've heard folks who've been on the show have hosted LinkedIn conversations to say, let's get, well, is it time to get rid of the customer health score and send it out to retirement? But what do you think of it and how do you use it?
I think it's really how you think about it. If you look at your customers who are listed as a 10 and you think, great, I don't have to think about them, your health score is failing you. I think it
Hmm.
should give you a general sense of is anything wrong and how can I think about this customer? So I find it valuable because I don't take it as a 10 means a 10. Um, and that everything's fine and don't worry about this customer. So I think if it's almost to me like a customer segmentation strategy. So you might have a customer who you think is going to grow and they don't. It doesn't mean you shouldn't have segmented them in the first place. It just means your segmentation the way you identified them initially was wrong. So it's that constant iteration and refinement for us. And why I think mine are the way we're doing our health scoring is valuable is you can't be at a 10 health score if you don't have a multi-year contract with us. Like, I find that to be significant. And
Mhm.
so I can look at a 10 and understand, wait, great, that customer is in a multi-year. So I think it can provide you with hard facts that are relevant, and they're not based on feeling, and they're not based on, again, for me, support tickets is one where I'm like, I don't think that should necessarily make your health score go up or down. I think that it's just, sometimes it can be a positive thing. Sometimes it's a customer asking a question. Sometimes it's a customer that's going to have a great support experience.
Mhm.
So for me, it's that. It's also, our CSMs will rank a customer, and that feeds into their health score just based on their interaction. So if they're having great conversations and everything seems great, they can rank that customer high. That will tick up their score. And then one of the other things that is important to our health scoring is the relationships in the business. So if you are only talking to one network engineer, to me, that's a risk, and doesn't necessarily mean that you should have a bad health score, but what it should signal to you is you need to be more multi-threaded in that account, and you need relationships higher up in that business. Because if that one network engineer leaves, you are in trouble. And there's one thing I've learned: these people move around. They move around companies. And so, I think, again, it's like, it should signal some kind of action or some kind of question. It just shouldn't be, they're a 10, I don't have to think about them anymore.
Mhm. No, great points. I mean, I think they're useful. I don't think you should spend too much time on them, and you should obsess over them.
Right.
But it's a guide, right? That's
That's
it.
right.
What is the action, right? And I've always used more simplistic ones. And if they're if they're red, you need to move them up to yellow, and if they're yellow, move them up to green. If you use numbers, if they're three, move them up to a four, and if you're on a scale of five, if you're doing 10, that's fine. But there's a goal, right?
Yep.
What is our strategy here with this client? Where, and like you said, it could just be as simple as make more connections because our contact left, and now we're kind of starting over, and we don't want to be in that position again. Or it could be, this is a great customer, we love them, they really like us. Perhaps next step is a multi-year contract for you,
Yep. Or a case
and
study, or
or
being
something.
part of a beta program.
Yeah,
There's all these, but yeah, it should elicit
it
some action. It just shouldn't
exactly
be
right.
like, this is where they are and I don't have to think about them, and this tells me everything I need to know. It doesn't tell you everything. It doesn't tell you, it can indicate some things. It doesn't tell you everything you need to know about a customer.
That's right, and it's just a simple a metric. I think what I've talked about and I've written about is what I call metrics myopia. We get too nearsighted on these things, and we rely on them too much. Where it's just a point of data, it's a dashboard, it's something. It's how fast are you going? What's your oil level at your car? Like whatever. What's your tire pressure? You just have to know these things. So to me, it's useful if you do it correctly and you don't obsess about it and you don't spend too much time on it. So
Yep.
I'm all for keeping them. I don't understand the negativity that goes on with some of them. But anyway, it depends. One size does not fit all in customer success. We've talked about that before. All right. So let's talk about connecting to others. How do you keep executives connected to what you're doing, your work, your clients, and the customer journey?
That's a great question. I think we've really tried to, and even with my team, connect what we're doing of like how this is driving the business forward. So when I think about gross dollar retention, net dollar retention, time to value, like telling a compelling story of how one churn can impact these numbers, and these are the kind of trickle down um impacts. And I don't think, from an executive level, I have complete buy-in. I'm not worried about that. I think that I've tried to make sure that my team is presenting to the executive team about what's going on in the customer base. So we're keeping product informed, our CEO informed. We're sending our CEO out to visit customers. We're assigning executive sponsors. We're trying to really define what that means and how an executive should think about being an executive sponsor on an account, and what those responsibilities might look like. So, we're doing some account planning where we're taking a couple of our big accounts and doing a full-fledged plan for 2026. And what does our expansion rep do, and who is he interacting with? How does our CRO interact with this person? So you can really think about multi-threading, and it's not just your CSM trying to build a relationship with the
Right.
CEO of another company. It's your CEO making that connection. So it's getting them involved, and it's really painting the picture of how of how churn can impact everybody, how time to value impacts everybody. And I fortunately have not struggled with this. I think I've gotten great buy-in
Mhm.
early on, but it's a little bit of a culture shift at the company and with even my team who recently they were all just onboarding customers and not really thinking about the big picture. And so again, it's just good, like the way you talk about it, and sort of the culture around customer experience, I think has been really what we've thought about.
Yeah, and that's great that you don't struggle with it as so many do struggle
Yeah.
with the buy-in and the leadership understanding of a CX program. But I really feel the pain of not getting executive leadership
Mm,
involved as soon as you can, right? Because what you don't want to do is wait till it's too late
yep.
and someone's ready to leave. And I've seen that where it's, well, there wasn't any, kind of relationship built at those various levels, and it comes back to haunt you when something goes wrong and they're looking at a competitor. So to me, it's you get that early and often, and you're going to be in a great position to retain your clients and everyone on board. So that is a super important point. um, let's talk about a couple of more things before we hit the segments. I got a fun question for you. What's one decision you made as a leader that you're glad you didn't listen to the conventional wisdom on?
Um, I think the hiring for experience, and I guess that I don't know if it's conventional wisdom anymore, but I think I've just lived in a world where I don't know. It was always every of my past jobs and everything else. The first thing you're looking at, especially when you're hiring somebody and maybe a CS manager role, that they need to have experience in being a CS person. And I didn't listen to that. And actually, my team is kind of filled with people that haven't done CS before. And really, even me, right? Like, I've kind of done everything but in my career. It's been a fundraiser, I've done sales enablement, I've done a
Yeah.
bunch of different things. And so, my my team, I have a former SDR, I have a former recruiter, and she's running ops and she's doing amazing. So, I think that we have I don't want to say this to say that experience is bad. I think experience can be helpful, and I probably will hire somebody with deeper experience. But I think we've been able to approach things differently because we don't have any of the kind of traditional or conventional thinking on the function. And when you're building something in a company the size of ours, and we are really our competitive advantage is the ease and um we're competing with behemoths, right? And we've been able to sort of come at this really scrappy and come at this a lot different than maybe our competitors do. And we have the formalized channels of support and those things, but to your point around executive sponsorship and everything else, I mean, we still very much, if a customer wants to email our CEO or contact me or contact their CEO, like there's just that direct connection to human beings. And I think especially as we get more into AI and all like everything else, it's like the ability for a customer to contact a human easily, I think will be a pretty strong competitive advantage moving forward. Um, so I'm glad I didn't listen to the conventional wisdom on, hire for experience. I've gotten really fortunate with the team that I've built and that, I think we just approach things a little bit differently than if we had that bench of depth of experience.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting take on it, and all you job seekers out there, that's music to your ears because this is such a terrible job market where
It
there's so
is.
many candidates, and you have to have the exact job and the
Yep.
exact qualifications, and it's very competitive out there. And it's refreshing to hear. Well, sometimes you take people from different backgrounds and things like that. You haven't heard much of that lately, and I know that because I've lived this and I've seen where some of the people I work with might have an accounting background, some maybe from performance and risk and investment operations and things like that. So people who know and understand your business move into the roles because when you're in these roles, you have to understand the business right? And
Right.
you have to understand the mechanics involved in the operation. So that is definitely refreshing to hear. And I thought we get through a podcast without using the word AI, but we didn't do it. So yeah,
It's impossible right now.
it's right, right. It's impossible. So the previous episode with Chris Hood, please check that out if you're interested in the world of AI. But we're gonna skip the AI talk for today, Allison.
Thank you. I don't want to.
Yeah.
I'm over it at this point.
Yep, it is too much, and we had an expert on in the previous episode. So, all right, let's stick to you and Portnox. Wrap up question for you. Looking back, what advice would you give to Allison, who was just starting to build the CX function?
You know, I think about I was so focused on I'm very analytical and I'm a numbers driven person, and I'm very glad of the numbers that we've got and the way we're tracking it and the way we've built out our CRM, and I'm very proud of like the way we're driving the team in the right ways now to the right metrics. Like I think there's a lot of stuff I'm really proud of. I think, and I guess this is just uh, feedback for me for my whole life, but I sometimes move too quickly and I don't pause and maybe do some stuff that would you can't like, wouldn't it doesn't allow you to show value as quickly. So the example I'm thinking about is, I'm starting to make more customer visits now. So I'm heading, doing that work now, and which is great. And I'm excited to meet our customers. And I wish I had done that first before I did anything else, because the thing that, and I've learned this multiple times in my life, but apparently it's a lesson I need to learn again. You're never done building the infrastructure, the processes, the CRM, the data. Like we're iterating the health scores all the time. Like that is in constant flux and constant iteration. It was never going to be done. So if I had in my head, hey, I'm going to build everything and then I can move on to all this other stuff and I just want to get this stuff done, that's never going to happen anyway. And I probably would have been better off going slower with that stuff and connecting with our customers in person faster. So I would have done that first.
Yeah, no, that is an excellent insight. Certainly shared among many, but get in front of those customers first and get their opinion so you get the grounding in what's really going on out there. Because, we talked about it with journey mapping. If you do a journey map and you don't get the customer's perspective before you finalize it, as Dave Seaton would say, it's just an art project.
Yep.
So
I think the in-person piece too, like you can,
in person, yeah.
I've been talking to, again, it's like the Zoom calls, the phone, all those things are happening, but there is still something so different of going to a customer's business and interacting with the multiple people there, understanding the dynamics of that office, and then even just literally understanding how they interact with your product on a daily basis and what they look at, how they think about it, how it fits in their context of their business. You just don't get that via Zoom.
What the other thing you don't get is how they interact with each other. And that to me has always been the fascinating point of going to a client site and
It's
just
all
seeing
people at the end of the day.
And just seeing who's interacting with who and how and who's buddies and
Mm-hmm.
who might be maybe not buddies. And
You got it.
so it's a very interesting take, but it's important stuff because, in my world, I have a lot of constituents at different client sites. I could have 3 or 4 different teams, 20, 30 people I'm dealing with, and how they're interacting is important to everyone's success. So it's always been an interesting take on it to see how they interact with each other, certainly. So, and the same goes for them, for you, right? So great take on that. This has been great talking about your business and the main interview section, but it is time to hit the segments. Let's roll. All right, it is time for Does It Hold Water? It is my favorite segment, and this is a section where I ask our guests to be our resident expert witness for the day, channel their inner Mona Lisa Vito, so to speak. And I have a simple one for you today, Allison. The defense case is built around the phrase, your brain creates reality before you see it. Does the defense case hold water?
I think so. I think so. And I have found, I don't want to sound too woo-woo. So a little bit like
that's what this section's for. Go full woo-woo.
I do believe that, again, I just can hear, even just people I work with hearing me say this, but I do believe like you manifest, your part of your reality. And I think if you approach a conversation, again, this is what I said in that post, but like if you approach a conversation with a customer that this is going to be bad, this isn't going to go well, they're mad, like you're going to get that outcome. If you can approach it of like, they're a human being that needs help, this is going to go awesome. There's just something in your posture that changes. There's something in, and your words, your vibe. Like I think that is real. I do. I think the we're probably all living the lives we've dreamed of 5 years ago because we made little tiny decisions at every turn that built the reality that we're in. Again, that sounds woo, but I do think that's real.
Yeah, that is an interesting one because it is a little. I've said before I cannot stand the saying perception is reality. Because I think this is a little different. This is your brain creates the, if you think it, you're kind of, yeah, you're moving towards it, you'll make it happen. Or
Think
even
about if you woke up and you said, I'm going to have a terrible day today.
Yep.
Like that's like, at the most simplest level. And that's probably not that woo woo. Like if you wake up and you think I'm going to have a terrible day, you most likely are going to have a terrible day. Now, if you think I'm going to have a great day, you might get hit with some stuff that's not so great. And maybe you end up not having a great day. There could be things out of your control, but I have to imagine that mindset is more beneficial than, this conversation is going to go bad. Like I think that there is something in the way we approach conversations. I mean, haven't you ever sort of been in a bad mood and you think you're not showing it at all and somebody says like, what's wrong with you? And you're
right.
like, I didn't even talk to you. It's just like the aura that you're giving off is negative. All right. I got way too woo-woo for this. Sorry.
No. This is great. No, it's important stuff actually. And no, look, my wife can pick that up in 2 seconds. What's wrong?
Yep.
And I haven't said anything. Like she just knows what's wrong.
But just like kind of in the back of it, like just the way you're sitting, all of it, right? So
right.
I believe it.
No, it's not, and I don't think it's too woo woo. I think there's social cues, and I can't think of her name. I'd give her a free plug here, but all about social skills and social cues. It just came up on my YouTube feed while uploading my clips and everything, and I started listening. But it's all about your posture, your chin being parallel, like walk in with confidence, not cockiness, and you walk in slumped shoulders, your head down, or whatever. My son has a big baseball tryout tomorrow. I'm going to tell him just walk in, head up, chin high. You're confident. You're just be one of the best players on the field and have fun and smile. And the coaches will love it. Right. So it is super important stuff. And you definitely could bring that vibe with you. And it's not, I don't think that's the woo stuff. If you're miserable and, you're interacting with someone, it's just not there. What's the person gonna do? Like, whatever, bud. I'm not gonna interact with you, and it doesn't work. So there is definitely something to it. And I'm a golf nut, and I try not to talk too much golf on it, but it's the same thing. Golf is not a game of perfect. We'll get to chip shots next, but I always say if my chip shots answer is the book, golf is not a game of perfect. So if you're thinking I'm gonna hit it, I'm not gonna hit it in the water. Oh God, don't hit it in the water. You're thinking about the water. Where are you gonna hit it? Water.
I golf as well, and that we belong to a club, and every time there's a water shot, I literally hit in the water every time because I think don't hit it in the water. So
don't hit it in the water. You can't think it. Your mind. There you go. Dr. Bob Rotella. Your mind does not. No, don't. It doesn't negative. So you're just thinking about the water. You need to think about right side and a draw or whatever, or just hit it down the right side. So we talked about that before, but great stuff. So thank you for that, and let's move to chip shots. All right, let's move to chip shots. These are my fun, shorter form questions, more personal but still professional. We go with 3 or 4 time permitting, and we always start, Allison, with the book question. What is one book that has significantly influenced you, professional, personal, or both?
There's a few, but I'm going to just say Cal Newport. He has written a couple books, one being Deep Work, The Art of Slow Productivity, Digital Minimalism. And I would say that his theory on knowledge work, the kind of inundation of short form videos and Instagram, all of like his thinking on that and how it's sort of overtaken our lives and, even like teams and just I think it's hard in this world to take the time to think and process. And so I think his books all together have made me really think about how I spend my time, how I interact with social media, how I use the tools versus letting them use me, like things like Slack or Teams or things like that. So highly recommend him as someone just to look at and pursue. He's got a podcast if people aren't readers, called Deep Work, or The Deep Life actually. So definitely recommend him.
Awesome. That's great. So multiple books. I'll take that. One author, multiple books. We had a previous guest, Chris Woders, gave me, I think, about 7 or 8 books. So that is our record for the question. That's what is one book? But so 7 or 8's the record. So
Just an author then. Anything he
that's
wrote
good.
is
That's
going to be
fine.
helpful.
Yeah, no, that is great. And it's a little bit of a modern twist on things. So that is an excellent suggestion. Thank you for that. All right. Speaking of which, modern stuff, if you could spend a day shadowing a current leader or professional in any industry, who would it be and what would you hope to learn?
I think because I'm in a Series B organization, and as I think about my own career, I am what's next for me. You sort of think about being a chief customer officer, maybe at a somewhere bigger event down the line, things like that. So, and I am in the world that I live in, you're very much shifting from tactical to practical and tactical to strategic high level thinking of like, okay, I need to communicate to my team about why time to value matters and paint this whole picture. But then I also need to go figure out why this customer has a support issue. So I shift from those things frequently. I would like to follow or shadow like a chief customer officer at a bigger company just to see how, I guess, how you really live in the world of the strategic only and what it really looks like to be that all the time.
Hmm.
Because I think for me, I'm definitely an analytical, can be pretty tactical, and I think I can do the more strategic stuff, but I want to see really what that looks like if that was your full day,
Hmm. If
honestly.
the, and I'm not sure. It'd be interesting to hear if that truly is your full day, because I don't think you, in this world of customer experience and customer success, you can ever escape that
Yeah. It'd be interesting to
tactical stuff.
see, right? Like,
Right, but I know what you're saying. The majority of your day is spent on the kind of strategic focus and the guidance and the leadership. But I think this is a discipline that tends to by default leave you in that tactical world because as
could
everything's
be.
changing every day, you never know what's going to happen
Yeah.
every day, and just stuff happens in the market, in the world, in the economy, and but also with your clients. Like you said,
Right.
clients leave for various reasons. It could just be there's a change in management, there's a merger, right? There's just a corporate action that causes a client to go to another provider because they have a provider. So you just never know, and
So true.
you're always kind of just brought into it. So that is the how shall we say, the variety is a spice of life element of these roles, but there's a lot of spice sometimes, and you don't want too much spice. But you get a little bit of spice every day. So all right. Let's go with, is there a particular experience or failure early in your career that taught you a valuable lesson that you still use today?
Yeah. I think I over communicate a lot now. And I feel like I spend a lot of my time or some of my time saying to people on my team, "Oh, did you talk to that person? Do you have a relationship with that person?" Like the seeing how everything at the end of the day connects. I actually just put time on with sort of a seemingly function that may not wouldn't think they need to know about customer segmentation, but I'm like, "Oh, I want to show you this new customer segmentation strategy because I can foresee like actually it's going to be helpful for them to know about this for these reasons." So even in the moment, they might be like, "Why is she telling me about customer segmentation? Doesn't seem to impact me at this moment." Um, I had a misstep early in my career where I didn't over communicate, and that was very painful. And so I think now I make the habit of trying to keep people informed, even when it's not immediately obvious that they need to be. So, and I think it's been very successful and fruitful. And I also think you build relationships around the business that aren't immediately obvious that you need, but you end up needing. So I think that bigger picture of like the scheduling, the one-offs, the communicating things that doesn't necessarily seem immediately obvious that person needs to know has been very helpful for me based on a misstep.
Interesting. Very thoughtful one. That was really good. I appreciate that one. Awesome. Alison Dixon, great guest. Thank you so much for being on Your Customer Success
Thanks
today.
for having me.
Yeah, this has been great. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you if they want to reach out?
Definitely find me on LinkedIn. Again, as I mentioned with the books at the Cal Newports of the world, I'm not all over social media. So certainly on LinkedIn, and, check out Portnox.
Yeah. And those links will be in the show notes for sure. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to Your Customer Success again today. We will be back with more CX leaders, customer success leaders, and more real soon. Please do check us out on YouTube as well if you're listening. And if you're on YouTube, there's the audio versions as well. So please do give us comments, feedback. We love to hear it. Thank you so much for joining today. That's all for today. Bye for now, everyone. That's a wrap. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We hope you found something insightful that will enhance your experiences and drive your success. If you enjoyed the episode, please leave a review and share your thoughts to help us improve the show. Don't forget to head on over to marracxhub.com for more ways to connect with me and learn more about experience management. Until next time, I'm Gary Marra, working hard for your customer and your success.